In previous session, we have seen about test execution. And during test execution, for failed test cases, you will log the defect. It is called as a defect, some calls it as a bug, or sometimes even it is called as an issue. So what is bug, defect or issue? So what exactly is bug? So bug or defect refers to an issue in a software application that causes it to behave unexpectedly or not meet the requirements. It can be identified at any stage of development or testing, and it indicates a flaw in the code, logic or system. If you remember, we write the test cases with the reference of requirement documents. So whenever any new feature is developed, product person give you the requirement, how that feature should behave. Depending on that feature requirements, you will write the test cases scenario. From test scenarios, we derive the test cases, and in every test case, we write the expected outcome. So for every test cases, we perform some test steps, and that should give you some expected output. And that expected output should be as per the requirement. Once you start the test execution, and if you execute that test case, and if the expected outcome is not matching with the actual output which is coming, then it is an issue. We call it as a bug. So whenever such defect or bug is found, as a QA, we should report that issue. So bug or defect is basically a flaw in a system, a flaw in a code, or flaw in a logic that causes the application or feature to behave unexpectedly and not as per the requirement. A simple example, if you have some login screen and the requirement is after you log in with correct username and correct password, you should redirect to dashboard of the application. So user should be able to log in once he provides the correct username and correct password. But due to some logic or due to some flaw in the code, if user is not able to log in even after putting correct username and correct password, then it is a bug, because it is not, the actual outcome is not as per the outcome which is given in the requirement. So it is some flaw in the code, or it might be some flaw in the logic. That's why the issue occurs. So as a QA, we should report that bug. And there is some difference between bug and error. So what exactly is difference between bug and error? So both are not the same thing. Though they sound similar, bug and error sound similar, but they are different things. A bug or defect, it is a flaw or imperfection in the software code or logic that causes it to produce the incorrect output which is not as per the requirement. And bugs are identified after the software is developed and are typically discovered during test execution. A simple example is a user clicks on a button that is supposed to submit a form, but nothing happens due to issue in the code. So that is a bug which gets identified after development is completed and during the execution. But what is error? Error is a mistake. Error is a human mistake made during coding, design or logic. So whenever developer writes the code, let's say he misspell something, so he makes some spelling mistake, and because of that spelling mistake in the code, some issue might occur. So error is a human mistake which is made during coding, design or logic. It can also refer to the state where the system deviates from the expected behavior due to this mistake. So such human mistake in the code can cause the bug. Errors can be introduced during the coding phase by developers, leading to bugs in the software. Example would be a developer writes incorrect syntax or miscalculates the formula in the code. That leads to a runtime error. So error and bug, there are some slight differences. So error is a human mistake made during the coding, design or logic, whereas bug is a imperfection in the software code or logic that causes it to produce incorrect or unexpected result. When you log the issue, we should use some bug tracking tools. So it depends on different organization to organizations. Various type of tools are available which are used as bug tracking tools. For example, Jira, Bugzilla, Mantis, Redmine, these are some of the bug tracking tools. In this we have to also note down one more point is, there are some tools which are used as bug tracking tool as well as overall project management tool or test management tool as well. So Jira is some of the product which are basically are not just for bug tracking tool. So Jira is basically used for different type of test management or even project management as well. So Jira is used by business people. Jira is also used by developers. Jira is also used by testers for to log the bugs. Jira is also used by product people to write the user stories and requirement, etc. Bugzilla is a only bug tracking tool. So some tools are there which are used only for maintaining the bugs. So Bugzilla like tools are only for logging the issues. It is a free and open source bug tracking system with strong tracking of bug tracking abilities. Mantis is also user-friendly bug tracking tool, whereas Jira and Redmine are flexible project management as well as bug tracking tool. So there are two type of tools. Some tools are only bug tracking tool which are used for logging the issues, maintaining the issues, etc. And there are some tools which are used for bug tracking as well as other project management related tasks. For example, Jira and Redmine. These are overall project management tools and used by different type of roles in the organization. They can also used as a bug tracking tool, but along with the bug tracking tool, these tools are also used for maintaining the user stories, user requirements, etc. So these are basically two type of tools which can be used. So that will vary on your organization. Various type of organizations can have different type of tools. And whenever, as a QA, whenever we are logging the issue, what information should we include in the defect? So whenever you are going to report the issue, what type of information we have to include in that issue? And these are the different fields which are given in almost all type of bug tracking tools and project management tools. But we should remember what are the things we should attach, what are the things we should mention while reporting the bug. So first one is defect ID or defect number. It is a unique identifier for the defect, and usually it is auto generated by the bug tracking system. So whenever you will log the issue, it will automatically generate some ID. It is a unique identifier so that you can refer that issue with that defect ID number. And it is most of the times it is auto generated. Title and summary. A summary of the defect that clearly states the issue. So you should put a short summary of the defect that clearly states the issue. So just after reading the summary, user should be able to understand what is the issue exactly. Version. Version of software on which the issue is happening. So as I said earlier, developers can provide multiple builds for QA. So exactly on which version of software that specific issue is found, that we should report down in the while reporting the defect. Steps to reproduce the issue. So as a QA, we should always note down exact steps on which the issue has occurred so that it would be easy to understand for the developer as well to replicate that issue. So we should mention all the detailed steps to reproduce that issue. Expected result. So what was the expected result for that behavior? So whenever you executed that test case, what was the expected result for that test cases? That also we should mention in the defect. We should mention what should happen if the software behaves correctly. Example, after clicking the login button, the user should be redirected to the dashboard. That was the expected behavior. That was the as per the requirement. But what was the actual result? That also we have to note down. So what actually happened when the issue occurred? So after executing the test cases, what actually happened? Example, after clicking the login button, nothing happened. Some error might have come or nothing happened. User did not redirect to dashboard and some no redirection happened or some error message might have displayed. So whatever the outcome you have observed, that outcome you should note it down as an actual result in the bug. So these are the two very important fields. What was the expected result? Expected result means what was the expected correct behavior. So ideally expected result should have been happened. But what actually happened? That is basically outcome after the test cases execution. So you should note down both these things while reporting the bug. So whenever developer sees this, he will understand this was the expected result, but this is what actually happened. And that's why it is an issue. Severity and priority. This is again very important thing, severity and priority. We will understand severity in priority in more detail in coming session, but just understand severity means how critical is the defect. So as a QA, you should always mention the severity. For example, how critical that issue is for the business. How critical is that defect? Example, if it's a blocker means very important functionality is blocked. That means, example, login is not working. If login is not working, then it is a very critical issue because if you are not able to log in, how you are going to perform the remaining testing? You are totally blocked for the testing. So that's why that is a blocker issue. After blocker, there is a critical type of issues. So you are able to log in, but after login, if there is some specific functionality which is not working, then you can mark it as a critical severity, major severity, minor severity. So these are the different levels of severity depending on how critical is that defect, how critical impact that defect is making on the application. So according to that, as a tester, we should always maintain the severity as well. Priority. What is priority? Priority means how quickly that issue should be fixed. If it's a high priority issue, that means it should be fixed immediately. If it is a medium priority, then it can be picked after the high priority issues. And if it's a low priority issue, then it will be picked after the high and medium priority issues. So once you once you assign the priority to the bug, it will be easy for developer to pick the issue. So developer will pick high priority issues first, then they will pick medium priority, and then they will go for low priority issues. So that's why as a tester, while reporting the bug, we should always mention severity as well as priority on the issue. So while logging the issue, you will have two fields, severity as well as priority. Environment. So on which environment that issue has occurred? On which environment that defect was found? That can be a specific operating system like Windows or Mac OS. It can be a specific browser also sometimes. So sometimes some issue might happen only on Safari browser. Some issue might happen only on Chrome browser, etc. If it's a mobile application testing, then we should always mention on which mobile device the issue has occurred. If there is any specific application version, For example, if issue has occurred only on iPhone 13 or iOS 15, on app version 1.2, or if it's only on Safari browser, etc. So on whatever environment the issue has occurred, we should note down that as in the bug as well. Screenshots or video. So it is very helpful to attach some screenshot or video of the issue as well. So whenever you find any issue, immediately take the screenshot and attach that relevant screenshot or screen recording in that defect. Example, a screenshot showing the unresponsive login button. So if you are clicking on login button but nothing is happening, you can immediately take the screenshot and attach that screenshot in the bug. Test data. So sometimes some issues will happen on specific type of test data. So whenever you are logging the issue, we should always mention that test data as well in that issue, because it would be easier for a developer to get that test data and to replicate the issue on his end to understand that issue. Reproducibility. So we should always mention whether the defect can be easily reproduced, if it is always reproducible, or if it's an intermittent issue. So intermittent or rarely issues. So intermittent issues might happen sometimes. So we should always mention what is the reproducibility of that issue. Assignee. So once you give all the information of the issue, you will see one more field of assignee. So whom to assign that issue? So we should assign that issue to a respective developer who have worked on that project. So he is working on that project, we should assign that issue to that developer. So if there are some multiple modules, and if you are working on multiple modules testing, and if there is a developer who have worked on login module, and if you find the issue on login module, then you can put that developer's name in the assignee field, so that that issue will be assigned to that developer. Status of the issue. So whenever you log the issue, initially it will be marked as a new issue, and depending on overall bug life cycle, it will have different type of status. That bug life cycle we will see in next session, but just understand status is basically information of the issue on which state it is currently. So it can be in open state, it can be a in progress state, it can be a resolved state, or it can be a closed state. So it's a basically state which indicates in which state that issue is currently present. If it's open, if it's in progress, if it is resolved, or if it is closed. So that field also available in the defect. Module or component. So some tools can have module or component field. So if you found the issue in login module, whether it's a payment gateway module, if it's a e-commerce module, add to cart module, etc. What is the defect type? So whether the issue is functional issue or it is a UI issue, it can be a usability issue, it can be a UX issue, it can be a security issue, it can be a performance issue. What is the type of that issue? That also we can mention while logging the issue. So these are the different fields, or this is a different type of information, different parameter of the information which we should log it in the defect whenever we are going to create that issue. So one sample example of such fields. So example of well structured defect report. So whenever you are going to create the issue, these are the different fields which we have discussed. Defect ID, title or summary of the issue, detailed description of the issue, steps to reproduce. So we can mention the detailed description here. We can also put exact steps to reproduce that issue. We have to provide the expected result. So expected result is the correct behavior. Expected result is correct behavior which was expected. And actual result is the result which you have found after executing that test case. And obviously that actual result is different from the expected result. You were expecting of successful login, but actually nothing happened. That's what you are mentioning in actual result. Expected was successful login, but actually happened, nothing happened. That's why you are creating this issue, right? So this is the information we have to put. We have to also put the severity. Severity is major here because login is not happening. Priority is also high because it's a high priority issue. Login is not happening means developer should fix it immediately. On which environment it has occurred? It is occurring on iPhone 13, iOS 15, Safari version. Screenshots, you can attach those screenshots as well. Reproducibility, it is always reproducible. Assignee, name of the developer. Status, open issue. And module, login module. So this is the high level information we have to put while creating the defect. So this is all about what is bug and defect and what is the different type of information we have to provide while creating the defect. We have also seen there can be a different type of tools which are available. Jira is most commonly used as a project management tool, and also it can be used as bug tracking tool as well. There are some tools like Mantis, Bugzilla, which are specifically only used for bug tracking purpose. So on whichever organization you are working, they will have one of those tools. And most of the tools will have some common fields like this. So while reporting the bug, we have to put all this information. So that's it about bug and bug information.